Hi there. We'll just take a minute as people sign on and we'll get started with our recycling. Can I recycle it? Feel free to type in your questions now while we wait. All right, we'll get started. Hi, my name's Jenny Kedward. I'm a recycling educator for Dakota County. I've been talking trash professionally for 13 years now, and I'm so happy that you're here with us today. This is our first ever live Can I Recycle It event, so thank you for joining us. Dakota County has kicked off a recycling campaign called Back to Basics this year. We want to make you feel confident about your recycling at home, and this is one of the first things we're doing. Please feel free to type in your questions as we go. I'm going to give some background, and then the last half is all about you and your questions. And if we have any extra questions, we can answer them after the event is over. So let's get started. Have you ever thought about where your recycling and trash go? Many people don't. It usually just goes away and no one thinks about it again. Well, when your trash and recycling leave your house, trash, usually in Dakota County, goes to a private landfill. We have 2 privately owned landfills in Dakota County, and most of your trash goes there. When bottles, cans, paper go to a landfill, they're not taken out ever again. They're buried forever. No one is digging out your recycled bottles or your cans to make money off of them. Once it's in the landfill, it's forever. Now, some haulers take your trash to a waste-to-energy facility, which is a little better. They burn your recycling or burn your trash to make energy that goes to power your homes. Sometimes the waste-to-energy facilities they have large magnets and they pull out the metals from your trash. So at least they're getting something out of it. But most things are still incinerated. Your recycling, on the other hand, has a much longer and more exciting journey. Your recycling goes to one of 8 recycling facilities in the metro area. Type questions in the chat bar as we go, and we have staff answer or ready to write down your questions. Okay, so your recycling goes to a recycling facility. This recycling facility, let me get out a prompt here for you. This recycling facility has people working, and these wonderful people sort through all of our recycling that goes on a very fast conveyor belt. We also have machines that sorts our recycling, and this is important as we get when we talk about what we don't want in our recycling. And just remember, machines and people. So as things are sorted out of your recycling, they get smushed into big cubes we call bales, and then those bales are shipped off to a manufacturer that wants to make products out of it. So when we talk about can I recycle it, it's really, does someone want to buy that cube and make something out of it? That's really what recycling is. Now, we're lucky, we have a lot of different manufacturers in our area. So all of your paper recycling that you put in your recycling cart goes to a paper mill such as Westrock in St. Paul. They are one of the largest paper recyclers. We also have glass. Your glass actually goes to another recycling sorting facility, and they sort out by color because all glass is just broken down together, and we have to sort out by clear, brown, and colors. Now that goes to, all of those piles go to different recycling facilities or manufacturers like Anchor Glass in Shakopee. Most of our clear glass goes to Anchor Glass in Shakopee to make new bottles. It's pretty cool. Aluminum and steel get melted down and made into big giant blocks that are sold to manufacturers. We have Ameristeel, Gerdau Ameristeel in South St. Paul that does that for us. Fun fact about aluminum cans, you can actually drink your aluminum can or drink your soda or whatever's in your can, put it in your recycling bin, and within as little as 60 days, it's back on your grocery store shelf, filled up with new Coke. Plastics are a little different and a little more complicated, of course. Plastics get sorted by types of plastics, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then those big cubes, those bales of different kinds of plastic go to manufacturers that want to make different items out of it. The most common The most common products that we make from plastics are decking. So this is like Trex lumber. This is durable, maintenance-free decking. We also make clothes out of certain plastics, which is pretty cool. So this is fibers made from plastic. And then we also have a carpet. I don't have a carpet sample with me, but look at your ground. If you have carpet on your floor right now, it's probably made out of plastic bottles in the South, mostly Georgia, which is pretty cool. Okay, so I often get asked, well, why am I still recycling? Haven't we recycled everything? Why is it still important? Well, recycling is still important because it requires a lot of energy to make all of our products. Transportation, mining, logging, all of that still requires a lot of energy. And almost for every product, if we can make it out of recycled products or recycled materials, we save energy. For instance, making an aluminum can out of an aluminum can requires 95% less energy than mining for ore, bauxite ore, to make this can. That's pretty cool. Also, it's not just good for our earth, but recycling is also good for the economy. In Minnesota alone, it's been tracked that recycling supports 37,000 jobs just in Minnesota. That's pretty amazing. That's jobs from people picking up your recycling to sorting out at the recycling facility, manufacturing new items, and those service jobs that all support those people. Okay, the big question is, can I recycle this? And my first question when people ask me this is, well, it depends. Who's your hauler? And most people are surprised when I ask them that because don't all haulers go to the same places? So why don't they all take the same things? It's a great question. In Dakota County, the majority of our cities are what we call open hauling systems, where you as a resident can call up any hauler and say, I want you as my trash and recycling hauler. And then they start your service. So on your street alone, you could have 5 different trash haulers. And all of those trash haulers might go to one of the 8 recycling facilities in the Twin Cities. All of that affects how I can answer that question of, can I recycle it? Who's your hauler? What do they say they're recycling? And where are they going with it? That's what I need to know to answer that question. But don't worry, it seems complicated. We're going back to basics now. And I can tell you what all haulers across the board take, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So don't get frustrated. Let's get back to recycling basics and what we all know can be recycled. All right, so what can be recycled? We get kind of frustrated or overwhelmed by all the different kinds of plastics, bottles, tubs, containers, 1 through 7. What do I recycle? When really we're still throwing out 285,000 tons of paper, and 12,000 tons of aluminum and steel. Things that we've been recycling for decades. So when you get overwhelmed about plastics, just remember, focus on what we know we can recycle. Okay, so repeat after me. Bottles, cans, paper. That is the mantra. Bottles, cans, paper. We can recycle all of those with ease. Bottles, when I say bottles, I mean bottles with a neck. Remember that old saying, bottles with necks? There you go. It has a neck. That's what I'm talking about with bottles. So glass or plastic bottles. Cans, food or liquids, if they held them, you can recycle cans. And then paper. So all kinds of paper. We've been recycling forever. And it's gotten easier. It used to be that you had to separate colorful paper from white paper. Not anymore. You used to not be able to recycle envelopes with windows in them. Not anymore. Technology's increased so that you can recycle more kinds of paper. Now, cardboard, we used to have an overwhelming amount of cardboard in our business sector, but more and more cardboard is becoming such a big part of our residential recycling stream. Why is that? Amazon. Thank you, Amazon, for all our lovely cardboard. Please recycle this. Okay, one other big question I've heard in the last few months is my stuff really getting recycled? You might have heard in national news stories, especially in the last month, that recycling is being thrown away. It's recycling programs are shuttering around the country or changing what they accept. Luckily, in Minnesota, all recycling that's collected as recycling has to legally be recycled. So they can't, waste haulers can't take your recycling and take it to a landfill if they said that they were recycling it. We haven't been, the state is in charge of that law, and they haven't been asked by any haulers if to be allowed to landfill recyclables. So don't worry, all your recycling in Minnesota is still currently being recycled. Now that doesn't mean if you throw bad things in your recycling that's going to be recycled. It means everything that could be recycled will be recycled. Those cities that are kind of changing their programs, a lot of them are on the east and west coasts of the country because they relied so much more on international markets like China because they're port cities. China in the last few years has said, we don't want certain types of your recycling. All your mixed plastics, all your mixed paper, we don't want that anymore. We want to build up our own recycling markets in our own country. That's great. What happened though is on the coastal cities that relied so heavily on China and other international markets, they started not having outlets for their materials. So they had to figure out, what are we going to do? Sometimes recycling got landfilled, but what they're doing now is using the domestic markets we already have, the paper mills that are already in the US or in Canada or Mexico. But for Minnesota, who has really great, robust recycling markets, we weren't affected at first, but now that all of those materials are flooding the domestic markets, there's just a lot of recycling that is flooding the market. So a paper mill who was buying paper from a recycler, there's so much that recyclers are paying the paper mill to take it. So it'll calm down, but your recycling in Minnesota is still being recycled, so don't worry about that. The downside, like I said, is they're not worth as much. So what we can do as residents is make sure our recycling is worth as much as possible. And to do that means recycling the right stuff, empty your liquids and food from all of your bottles and cans, and make sure you're recycling the right stuff. We're going to go through that, and we're going to talk about the big no's of not to put in your bin, so don't even try it. And the better we recycle, the less time and money is spent on sorting out all of the bad stuff. All right, the big no's, I promised you. So the big no's of recycling are plastic bags. So plastic bags are recyclable, but not in your curbside recycling. They go to retail stores, Target, Best Buy will accept them. What happens, I have a great picture. Remember that image of the machines at a recycling facility? Well, what happens to those machines, all of those bags get wound up in the machines, and now the machines can't do their job of separating out our recycling. They tangle. So we don't want that. We don't want recycling. That includes no more doing this, putting your recycling in a bag and dropping this off in your cart. No more. Empty that bag, put everything in loose in your cart, and go take that plastic bag to the grocery store to recycle. The other big one is batteries. Now batteries, again, are recyclable, but not in your home recycling cart. What's been happening is we've been throwing batteries in our cart, and batteries, especially lithium-ion batteries, are catching on fire and burning down whole facilities. Because you definitely don't want a fire in a place that has a lot of paper and cardboard. And it also puts workers in danger. So, no batteries. Take them to the recycling zone. Recycling zone, batteries for free. Any type of battery, you don't have to worry what kind of battery it is. The recycling zone in Eagan will take them. The other big thing is, just like plastic bags, anything that can tangle. So your word for the day today is tanglers. And all that means are hoses and chains and cords, holiday lights. They do the same thing, they wrap around equipment. So just because your hose might be made of plastic or your chain might be made of metal does not mean it all goes in your recycling cart. If you can't reuse it or donate it, then throw those things in your trash. Okay, so now we get to go to questions. Are you excited? Here is our question pile, pre-written questions that you've already told us. You can always add more questions too as we go. Just type in the chat box. Okay, big one here. I have a ton of plastic bags. I don't know what to do with. They are from the pet store and contain food and pet food and litter. Some are labeled number 2, some say TerraCycle, and it doesn't say to recycle at all. What should I do with these? Yes, so bags that held food or litter can't be dropped off with your other bags at the store. Some bags can be sent to a company called TerraCycle, which is it's a national company where you mail back certain products that are hard to recycle. So TerraCycle is a great opportunity for that. If you don't want to mail back the bags to a company, then they do have to go in the trash. For me, I reuse my bags. I have 2 cats, and when my litter bag gets emptied, I actually use it then to take out the litter. So reusing those bags is a great opportunity for you. Also, bulk things like buying your cat litter in bulk at like pet stores. Okay, next question. Hopefully that answered that one. All right. My recycling cart is always overflowing. What can I do? Yes. If your recycling cart is overflowing, almost all haulers in Dakota County offer a free second cart or an increase of your size. So this little cart here usually comes in a 65-gallon cart. You can upgrade to a 95-gallon, usually for free. I haven't heard of any haulers charging to increase your recycling carts. You can also downsize your trash carts as well and try to save a little money there. You can also look at, are there stuff that I'm recycling? Make sure you're recycling all the right things, but are there things that I could buy differently so that I wouldn't have all of this? And that would also decrease your volume of recycling. So for instance, instead of buying, I don't have one here, instead of buying a little yogurts like Yoplait and Dannon, maybe buy the tub of yogurt and scoop it out into bowls or dishware. So that's something that you can start thinking about. Okay. All right, I'm gonna save this one because it'll go with something else. Can I recycle plastic caps that don't have a recycling symbol, like a laundry detergent or dish soap cap? Yes, what we say is leave all caps on. So here are caps. Here are a lot of bottles that have caps. And even cartons have caps. We're saying leave all caps on, even laundry detergent bottles. All of the caps stay on. And the reason for that is kind of cool, actually. What happens is, it used to be that we'd ask you to take off the cap because this bottle is made out of a different plastic than this cap. The technology has changed where manufacturers and recyclers have figured out how to recycle both, even though they're different. And once I explain the process, you'll get it. So this bottle goes along the recycling sorting facility. It gets baled in those giant cubes and sent to a recycler. The recycler, the manufacturer, chops up this, shreds it into just flakes of plastic, including the cap. And what happens is all of the flakes of the cap float at a different level in the water than the cap or the flakes of the bottle. So what they do is then they just skim off the flakes from the bottles and then skim off the flakes for the caps. It's pretty cool. Like, that didn't used to happen. And that's why we can now keep all caps on. Okay, hopefully that answered that question. Next one. Do I need to remove, oh, I love this. Do I need to remove the plastic cap and ring that comes from dairy cartons? So this is a carton, similar to a milk carton. So no, we tell you to leave all caps on. I can truthfully tell you though that the reason why we can recycle this is not because of the plastic. It's because of the amazing paper, the high-grade paper that's in a carton. So the recycler wants the paper, not this cap. So this cap and this lining here will probably not get recycled, but at least it contains everything in case there was a little bit in there. So keep the cap on, but truthfully, this cap probably won't get recycled. Make it easy on yourself. Okay, here we go. Can I recycle something as long as it has a number and an arrow at the bottom? That's the age-old question. So our recycling usually has a number. This one is a number 2, HDPE. We don't like to use numbers for education because it doesn't always indicate if something's recyclable. This number and the arrows do not mean that it's recyclable. All that means is what the product is made out of. So I know this is made out of number 2 HDPE plastic, but it's tricky because it might have a 2 on it, but it might have other components of this, like this sleeve isn't that number 2, this cap isn't that number 2. So it's not as easy. I wish it was as easy as just looking at the number and the recycling symbol. That's why when we educate, we say bottles, tubs, and jugs. So bottles, tubs, and jugs. If you have to remember anything, remember those. And as a backup, if you want to double check, it's okay to double check the 3 numbers that if you want to use numbers, the 3 numbers to go to are 1s, 2s, and 5s. Those all have very strong markets and can be recycled right now. Plastics change, I swear, like every day. So it might be different tomorrow, but right now it's pretty stable for 1s, 2s, and 5s. But again, that's tricky because something like this oil bottle, it's a number 2 on the bottom, but we can't, none of the recyclers want anything that had hazardous waste in it because it can contaminate the rest of the plastics. So just because it has a number does not mean it's recyclable. But, so no hazardous waste or bottles that held hazardous waste. This goes in the trash. That brings me to that question I saved. Styrofoam has a number on it, so why can't I recycle that? Again, that's why I don't like using numbers. This is a foam cup, also commonly known as styrofoam. It has a number 6 and a recycling symbol on it. That just tells me it's made out of polystyrene. So similar with foam cups, number 6 plastics are also red Solo cups that you use at parties. All of that, there are no good markets that want to buy this material in our area. So right now, throw any number 6 away. So any foam products, cups, packing peanuts, if you can't reuse them, plates, all of that needs to go to the trash. All right, continuing along. How clean do the metal cans, glass jars, and cartons need to be? So how clean is clean, right? It's so subjective. So please do not put your recycling in the dishwasher to clean it. That is using way too much water to clean something. What I want to do is talk about how clean is clean. So if I had this can and it had a little bit, or this bottle and it had a little bit of liquid on it, I want to dump it out as much as possible. This is too much liquid. A little like dots on it is fine, dots of liquid, but that is too much liquid. My carton, I dumped out. There, it looks pretty clean. The tricky one for this is, so rinse it out, give it a little rinse in the sink, dump it out. Don't use more water than is necessary because, of course, we're recycling because we want to save resources, right? But give it a little rinse because this still has to go through trucks and people and machines, and we want to keep all of our materials dry and loose. So the trick, the thing that everyone always talks about with how clean is peanut butter jars, right? I know you're thinking it. So peanut butter jars, and I don't have mine with me today, but the trick for peanut butter jars is, well, one, if you have a dog, they love this trick. Let them lick as much out as possible. Also, get a paper towel or newspaper and just kind of go inside the jar get as much out as you can. Another very easy thing you can do is fill up with hot water, fill up that jar, cap it, leave it overnight or for a few hours, then shake it, dump that liquid out, and that's as clean as it needs to be. So a little bit of peanut butter isn't going to ruin the whole process, but try to be respectful and clean as much out as you can. All right, continuing on. All right, I have a black plastic compost bin that I got from Dakota County many years ago. Do I recycle it? Does it go to the garbage? What do I do with it? Well, first of all, you should use it because composting is great. But if you can't use it and maybe it broke, you can't use it anymore, that goes into, just because it's made of plastic doesn't mean it goes into your recycling cart. What we call those things bulky plastics. So things that don't fit in your cart, but you don't really know what to do with. They are trash. Right now, we don't take bulky items. So if it can't fit in your trash can, then you can call your hauler and ask for a one-time large item pickup, or you can take to a transfer station. Usually the 2 transfer stations in Dakota County are in Burnsville, and that's on our website. Another plug I want to do is the Green Guide. So if there's something that I didn't answer for you today, that's a lot of different items we're not going to talk about today, including electronics. Someone asked about that. Go to the Green Guide on Dakota County's website, and it has hundreds of items that you can search for through, and it'll tell you how to reuse it, donate it, then recycle it, and then how to throw it away if we can't recycle it. Green Guide. If I forget something, go there. And you can suggest items on the Green Guide too. So if we don't have something, you can ask to add it. All right, feel free to keep comments coming too, or questions. Can I put shredded paper in my recycling? It used to be that you could put, if you shred your confidential documents at home, you'd put it in a paper bag, you'd staple it shut and write shredded paper on it. But what happens is, this line right here of people, this is happening really fast. The paper going through, they don't have time to read if something says shredded paper on it. And their whole point, these people right here, the first defenders of recycling here, their whole point is to grab things off that might not be recyclable. And they're used to grabbing bags. So any kinds of plastic or paper bags, either grabbing them off and throwing them away, or just ripping them to get things loose. So what happens to your nicely stapled paper bag is they'll grab it, they'll rip it open, and now you have an unwanted confetti party. So pretty bummer first, because now someone has to pick all of that up. The shredded paper usually gets into glass or other products that it doesn't belong, and so it ruins that product, or not ruins it, but makes it less valuable. And that paper doesn't get shredded. So instead of putting shredded paper, don't put shredded paper in your recycling cart at all. You have two options. If you love to shred at home because it's therapeutic and meditative for you, I get it. You can still put it in that paper bag, but bring it to the recycling zone. There's recycling zone, we go through a different process, and we keep all of our paper together, and it goes straight to the paper mill. The other options, you can go to permanent retail drop-offs like Staples, UPS stores. They'll shred for you for a small amount of money. And we now have all cities in Dakota County are required to offer at least 2 shredding events for their residents for free. And all your confidential documents are shredded on site. If you go to the Green Guide, it will list the upcoming shred events. And I think there's about 15 coming up in the next few months. So there you go. Okay, we'll have one more question and then we'll wrap up. Oh, we did how clean is clean. Can I recycle black plastic? Yes. I mean, no. Black plastic, again, has those fun numbers on them that we love. They might have a 1 or a 2 on them, but black plastic is tricky, like plant pots that you might get right now because it's spring, or your microwavable trays. Black plastic can't be dyed anything else, so it's black. So a manufacturer has to want black plastic to make something black out of it. That's not very common. And it's really, there are some recycling centers that don't have the ability to sort out black plastic because they use optical sorters. It's easy to sort out something that's clear, but not something, or opaque, but not something that's black. So that we right now cannot recycle black plastics. Stay tuned, that might change in 6 months, but right now, black plastics are no's. So with that, we've talked for 30 minutes, and I don't want to waste your time. If we have any more questions, and we do have questions that we didn't get to, we'll answer them in the Facebook event. And if we have a lot more questions come in, we might do a part 2 for this. This recording, or the event, will be recorded, and we'll share it out to our followers, and hopefully have on our Facebook page. So with that, thank you so much for joining us on our first ever #CanIRecycleIt event. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.